The win against the Chargers was an old school win. That's good and not so good. Plus, is AJ breaking the initials jinx? And are the Bills ready for national TV exposure? That's all coming up on this week's edition of the Buffalo Plus Podcast.
All right, welcome to the Buffalo Plus Podcast. As always, I'm here with Mike Catalana, Dan Fetes. I am Jenna, Cottrell. All right, Mike, the Bills picking up another win, their 8th of the season. This is back-to-back years that they've been 8-3. Now, this game felt like 2019. It felt like we saw the Bills defense kind of lead the way, Buffalo's offense. We saw that run game. So I want to get your thoughts on this game, considering it wasn't what we're used to seeing from this Buffalo team this year.
Yeah, but wasn't it nice to be back in 2019? Like anything that keeps us away from 2020, I guess is good. But I assume you mean from a football perspective. And it did feel that way. Even some elements of 2018, because we saw Josh make plays and we saw hero Josh and we saw some mistakes and we saw turnovers and we saw the defense bail them out. So, yeah, it really was. Look, it was a win. And they'll take it. When you see some of these other teams, like the Colts, who are really good, get run over, the Raiders, who've been playing well, get run over, just win the game. And they did win the game. But, yeah, it did have a, I'll say, old school feel for the Bills.
Yeah, Jenna, I think at one point you said this game was drunk with the 3 turnovers in 7 plays. Mike, I thought you corrected her. This may have been off camera, but you said the game needed rehab. Like it went past drunk. And I thought that was very well said. A weird game where the Bills committed penalties, turnovers. Josh Allen only had 157 yards passing. They still scored 27 points, guys. Like I know, and Mike, nice eye roll, but like they still
they scored. Why did they score 27? Because the running game was good.
I thought we were going to save that for later. Like, are we really going to get into that right now? I'm not even warmed up yet. Like, this is ridiculous. But cool. Devin Singletary ran for 80 yards, but like, we'll get back to that. Just the fact of, Mike, you said it best, ugly win, but again, the Bills don't care. The Chargers aren't a bad team, but I felt like that would have been a bad loss.
Yeah.
And so to get out of there, like they have weapons, and I know we talked about it on Buffalo Plus and the blogs that we've done. Anthony Lynn is a horrible head coach who must have had the Bills minus 4.5 like I did, because the amount of situations that he botched. I mean, he's not Doug Peterson bad, Mike, but he's pretty bad.
Yeah. Ooh, that's pretty bad.
I mean, there's a lot to dissect. And you talk about it, like the Chargers have a ton of talent. And I think you saw that. Their record doesn't reflect that. There were some questionable decisions down the line with the game. But Mike, you mentioned that run game. And you mentioned 27 points. And not saying this was a game where Josh didn't exactly play fantastic.
Yeah.
So to have Singletary be able to be reliable, but the fumble though, there's a lot to talk about with this.
Well, look, this is what I keep saying. They're not a running team. They shouldn't be a running team. That is not their strength. I mean, we joke about it, but we're on board fully with Dan that this is a passing team and it's going to go through Josh Allen. I just like to see them be somewhat effective running the ball. And we did see that. Josh had a few nice runs, but I don't even count that. I'm talking about literally handing the ball to Moss or Singletary and running forward and getting positive yards. I had to tweet at Dan once during the game, 2nd and 9, because we've seen it happen. But there were other plays, and they both broke long runs, which is great to see too. I think it can help Allen. Now, it's odd that in this game it didn't. But also, you also have to look at it and say, nobody was going to block Joey Bosa. So that's part of the reason why they ran the ball, because the dude lived in the backfield and he was going to hurt both quarterbacks. And I think he was going to track down Jake Fromm at some point and hit him too. So, I mean, Matt Barkley, poor Matt, like should have never walked on the field, but he got run over too. So I think that's part of the reason why they ran the ball more often too.
I completely agree. Dan?
Yeah, it is. I don't know what else like I say. Like it was nice to see a couple of runs. It was nice to see the offensive line be somewhat back to normal. We talked about last week, obviously, with Mitch Morse. I thought that was a better offensive line. Again, it didn't matter how many guys that they wanted to put around Joey Bosa. The only guy that could actually pick him up in a block was Zach Moss, who had a great blitz pickup, or whatever you want to call it, was able to cut him down to allow Josh Allen to find Dawson Knox in the back of the end zone. Yeah, Mike, I've never said, I mean, I have kind of said I would like the Bills to throw the ball 100% of the time. But like, yeah, if you're going to run the ball, I'd rather them be positive yards and to see, like, I'm not sitting there being like, I want them to run the ball backwards. Like, yeah, it was nice to see it. And like I said, this was the first time where this was a team that Josh didn't play well, a game that Josh didn't play well, and the Bills still won. You know, he really struggled in Tennessee, he struggled against Kansas City, and it was nice to see him still kind of come out with the win. So this was the definition of the complementary team football game. Like, nothing was really great. Josh had a couple of deep balls. He connected on Gabe Davis on one. The pass interference on the opening series to Stephon Diggs that didn't count. It's still call it a completion pretty much, right, because of what it did. So all sides were kind of working. It was an ugly game, but it was nice to see them, yes, run some positive yards. Yeah, woohoo.
I also think it's nice to see. As the season early on, I think everyone, Bills fans, were worried because it does not the Bills defense that we were used to seeing. But in these last couple of weeks, I feel like they've been able to put it together.
Yeah. And it got Sean McDermott to smile at Dan on his call. Because what did he see, Dan?
That is the defense that he expects to see every single week. And Mike, you asked him a great question earlier in the year, like, you're winning and all this stuff, but you're winning these games in the 30s and you're a defensive minded coach. It's kind of got to make you cringe to be winning these games like this. And he's like, what was the quote, Mike? If you could only be in my head.
Yeah. Be in my head and be sitting next to me on the plane coming back. That was the road game. And yeah, that's brutal for him, but they do need, again, I don't think they're winning the game solely because of their defense, but in a way, like the run game, it's got to be better. And you do need to come up with some plays on defense. And this one was different. Jenna's points are good. And this one was different. It wasn't like the Seattle game where they won that by just taking the ball away nonstop. I mean, they took it away from Wilson, 4 times in that game and still gave up 34 points. This one, the offense kept giving the ball away and the Bills kept stopping them. Now, I will say this. I think the Chargers, while the Cardinals is good, I think the Chargers might have an elite Hail Mary game because they completed 2 in a row against the Bills. And still Anthony Lynn couldn't get a touchdown.
Yeah.
Well, and that was it. You know, the 3 plays, the 3 turnovers and the 7 plays to open the fourth quarter was really one of those moments where Jenna and I were back in the sports office. Mike, you were at the game. And Jenna, I go to cut something or I go to go leave. And Jenna goes, they turned it over again. And I was like, no, they didn't. And then I left and I was like, well, hopefully that's the last one, like this game. I was just like, Dan, Allen threw another interception. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, what is going on every time? And there was some hero ball from Josh Allen, just plays that he couldn't make. But the sudden change defense that Jordan Poyer and Leslie Frazier and all those guys talked about really stepped up. That, you know, they end up holding them to a field goal, forcing a punt, and then getting the Trey White interception, which is just massive. And like I said, this defense is starting to look like 2019. Talk about the game starting to look like 2019. This is a defense to hold the Chargers to just 17 points, their fewest total since week 3. Like, this was a very good offense that I was worried about could get going against this Bills team. And they were really able to, you know, force Justin Herbert to be uncomfortable, which is something we haven't seen. And then to get those turnovers. But it wasn't just the turnovers. It was sacks. It was pressure. It was making Herbert look like a rookie, which he hadn't done this season.
Yeah. And that's huge. And also, I mean, AJ Klein, I feel like these last couple of weeks has really turned into a different type of player. He used to be a liability, especially in coverage, like kind of the joke a lot of Bills fans would talk about of, oh, there goes AJ Klein again, missed tackle. But I mean, Dan, we've seen a way different, he led the team in tackles yesterday, had a sack, like he's been playing very well.
He had 4.5 sacks last month, led the team. He looks like a completely different player. I mean, he must have been going through Twitter and just being murdered by every single person. And he was a massive liability, getting run over by, you know, trying to tackle people the best that he could. But Jenna, you talked to him after the game on the Zoom call. There's maybe an explanation as to why he struggled and to why now his play has increased.
Yeah, and I thought that was so interesting talking to him. He said, yes, he played under Sean McDermott when he was in Carolina. They both were, but he was the backup for Luke Kuechly, who's the middle linebacker. And now that he's on the outside, he had to relearn kind of the position. He was no longer the Mike, he was on the side. And I think now we've kind of seen him, and he even says how much more comfortable he feels. And the fact that he knows where he's supposed to be, he can be more aggressive.
Yeah.
And maybe, Mike, maybe it just did take that time to kind of settle in. But since then, he's been a great player.
Even in this game, when he's trying to cover Austin Eckler, which is a very tough matchup for anybody, he was, it was not his best. I think I'm going to simplify it. When he's going forward, he's really good. When he's going backward, it's rough. He is an aggressive player. And I wrote down, and I wrote it in one of the articles on Buffalo Plus, I think he plays with a violence defensively. And there's not a lot of guys on this roster that do that. They play hard, they play fundamentally, gap integrity, all those things. He plays with a violence. Like, he throws people to the ground. He's an aggressive player. And I think when you see that out of him, you say to yourself, I see what they saw in him as a player.
Sure.
And I think he's a guy that they like having on the field a lot now. And they complimented him a lot while everybody else was criticizing, I think, because they knew, at least scheme-wise, what they were asking him to do. I think they like him a lot.
Yeah, it is interesting because you talk about Mike, his violence. He was the one being violently thrown to the ground, though, for the first few weeks of the season, where it was like, what is going on? And it was, like I said, can we get Darren Lee up to speed fast enough? Because he was a liability and everything like that. Now he looks faster. And I think, Jenna, that's where you're talking about, where it's aggressive. He's not thinking. And like I said, we've seen the same thing with Tremaine. When they're hesitant, whether it's injuries or confusion or anything like that, not knowing the system, linebackers struggle.
Hey, by the way, speaking of Tremaine, first play of the game, I think it was, or in the first series, he's coming on the pass rush. Boom, throw it away.
Listen
to the pod. They listen to the
more
pod.
of that. He's 11 feet tall with a wingspan of 14. Send him after the quarterback sometimes. But it
was nice to see that, because you know the athleticism there. And it was nice to see AJ Empanessa, the rookie. Dan, I mean, I feel like he's kind of slowly been coming along, but to see him make plays and have some flashes is like, Bills fans I know are like, finally.
Well, and I talked to his D-line coach at Iowa before the season when I talked to him, and he was one of the guys that said, like, give him time. Like, he didn't come into Iowa and be a starter right away. He was really just a third down guy, and that he played in spots, just kind of went in on third downs. It was just pass rush. So for him to kind of get his wheels underneath him, obviously no mini camp, no training camp, really, no preseason, all of those things. And then obviously he was inactive for the first game, and we're all like, the heck's going on with this guy? And then all of a sudden he had a nice play in one game, and all of a sudden like this. And then all of a sudden Trent Murphy's inactive. And we talked to Leslie Frazier yesterday, and he was pretty much inactive because of AJ Epinessa's play. And not only that, it wasn't just the plays. It was that Leslie Frazier says he's making less mistakes so that they can trust him to be out there. It's one thing to make a play, but if you're going to make one good play and then allow two plays right back, you're not helping the team out. So it was nice to see that. Yeah. And it's just one of those things where, again, he was a guy that I don't think he was drafted to come right in and be a guy that needed to get double-digit sacks right away. I don't think that was the plan for them. I think they were fine with sitting him week one and just kind of letting him ease his way in. And now, like I said, he had 31 snaps last week. Really good. I thought he looked strong.
Yeah. And, both of these guys are trying to reverse the curse in Buffalo, which is initials. Right?
Yeah.
We've had JP and EJ. Look, if you're going to have initials, like, even people sometimes refer to Rob Johnson as RJ. I'm telling you, you don't want any initials in Buffalo. It hasn't worked. OJ? I mean, seriously. Okay. So we don't want initial. I'm just saying. So
ask them to change their name.
AJ and AJ are trying to reverse the curse of the initials. So good job, fellas.
What was Calvin's?
Kelvin?
KB?
There's the train. That was so loud today. Wow.
Yes. Well, it's like at the Bills game. When that stupid train horn goes now, everybody can hear it because there's no other noise in the place. So I say stupid. I know some people love that. I'm I'm tired of it.
I was to say, are they?
I'm just cranky old man. Yes,
That was such a cranky old man take.
Mike so
Yeah.
snarky on Twitter for game
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
Well, this month of December, the Bills are going to get a lot of prime time. They're getting a lot of attention. There's the Sunday night, there's the Monday night. Do you think this team is ready, Mike?
Well, they better be, because it's a combination of the attention and it's the stretch. It's December. It's getting themselves ready. And I know there's been a lot of talk of where they're positioned already and how it might change. You want to be playing your best through December, getting ready, right? And these are good tests. I know this is a weird game Monday because they're playing in Arizona, but everybody knows this now. They know where the game's going to be. It was a week in advance. They know that's where they're going. I don't think it makes a huge difference if they're playing that game in an empty stadium in San Francisco or an empty stadium in Arizona, because obviously the Niners are used to playing there. But that's a well-coached team with a good defense, even though with all their injuries. So they look good last week. They beat the Rams. They've beaten them twice this year. And then you've got Pittsburgh. And then you've got Denver on the road, Mile High, which is always an issue because that's the one place where the actual atmosphere is something, because it is you're a mile high. And then then they go to Foxborough, which is always, an issue for this franchise. So yeah, and it's going to be big for Josh Allen, I think, because the national guys can't wait to talk about Josh Allen and the narrative on him and where is he getting ready this year. So yeah, I think it's big. I think it's big for the whole organization with these 4 games, every one of them on national TV.
Yeah, and it's funny, Jenny, you talk about, ask Mike if they're ready. And it was so funny. Again, Leslie Frazier's, if you don't listen to his Zoom calls, I guess I never paid too much attention to his Monday press conferences before. It was just kind of like McDermott and getting in and out. He can tell some stories. He's got a good personality. Like I said, he's well respected, well liked around the league. And I felt like for the first half of the season, I feel like people couldn't understand and couldn't hit the panic button hard enough, the fact of how bad the Bills defense was. And it just like blew people's brains that they could give up 30 points week in and week out, and then not only win after giving up 30 points. And it kept kind of being like, it never seemed like for the team that the sky was falling. For McDermott and Frazier, they both were like, yeah, like we're working on it. Like we're a work in progress. And then Leslie Frazier opens up his press conference yesterday, or Zoom call, and is kind of like, told you guys, you guys were all freaking out about a couple weeks ago. I said we were getting there. And he's like, that was 2019. Like that was 2019. Like that was our team. And all of a sudden you could kind of get to see, like, told you guys, like, give us time. Like we had some injuries, we had some new guys coming in, but now he's like, yeah, this is good. So like to get to the national TV game, and now it's the graphic. Now it's the favorite graphic. It's Josh Allen's completion percentage from last year to this year, as they show on every TV screen. And then it's the Bills defense the first 5 games, and now it's like the last 4 games. That's all they're showing. It's the bingo check mark.
Yeah. And what else is nice? For the first time in a long time, when they put the graphic up of the standings, the Bills are no longer in the hunt.
In the hunt.
I do love that graphic, though.
They're in first place.
It was a big win for their playoff hopes.
Was Leslie? He was sort of talking a little. He wasn't in Super Bowl shuffle mode.
No,
because if you haven't seen it, and you got a little time on YouTube when you're not on the Buffalo Plus page, just do Super Bowl shuffle and watch it. The Chicago Bears, and wait, and you will see one Mr. Leslie Frazier in the Super Bowl shuffle dancing. I'm not one to talk, but it's not exactly like he's ready for, primetime dancing, but he's in it. So that's cool. It's cool to see.
He is a really interesting listen when you take a look and like hear what he has to say about his team. Because you're right, Dan, his confidence never wavered.
And like I said, he's great on Zoom calls. Brian Dable, this is the Brian Dable podcast. This is the Stan podcast. He is way better off Zoom calls than he is on Zoom calls. Yeah. The art of the trick play, Brian Dable is the master of it.
I was about to say, you mentioned Brian Dable, the trick play. I mean, the creativity is always fun to watch.
Yeah. And he has guys, they all have confidence in it. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you see those plays because, they break them out once. They may have a different guy in there, but they really break them out once and they work. Meaning like, Isaiah threw one, John Brown threw one, back to Allen. And they work, but that tells you this team focuses on that in practice. Like they run it well. I think Gabe Davis, Beasley
Great job.
Delayed a little bit. That's his job. And then he takes off. And then though Beasley said it was not exactly a thing of beauty, what he threw up there, it was effective and he got the ball there. So they're not afraid to do it. I mean, they did it in a playoff game last year on the first drive, They threw back to Allen and got that touchdown. So not afraid to use it in a big moment. And every team in the league that they're going to play has got to be ready for that.
Yeah, it was funny because that was only Cole Beasley's third pass in the NFL. And he says he thought it was his first touchdown since high school that he's thrown. And Gabe Davis said that he called it a dart, that Cole Beasley threw him a dart or a dime, whatever it was. He used the air quotes in the post-game call. But I think it's, Mike, you talk about it. Brian Daboll has every single person that has come to Buffalo since Brian Daboll's been the head coach talks about how open he is and how player-friendly he is. That, I just have no doubt that, that was something that they've talked about, and, Cole Beasley being like, well, when do I get to throw one? Wait for Diggs. Diggs is going to want one because, that's just – and it's not a diva way or anything about it. It's just, hey, what if we try this? What if we do that? Because that was the same play that Isaiah McKenzie, I believe, scored on, because Daboll said they'd run the play twice and it had worked twice. And he was asked if he was going to do another third variation of it. And he's like, well, put that one to bed. It is what it is. But that there's a trust level of they break the huddle with that play. And then it's a check with me, Daboll said, that everybody kind of says okay, is this the look we want? Okay, it is. Let's go with it. So just the willingness of Daboll to not be well, I'm the offensive coordinator. I make the plays. I remember when Cole Beasley got here, he's like, we can ask him something or put it in. He'll be like, yeah, let's try it. Let's see what it is. Let's see what it is. So it's just kind of a cool dynamic for a future head coach to get to do in this league.
Well, especially with all these openings that are going to happen in this league. I mean, Houston, no matter what they're doing, I think they're going to have an opening. Certainly Detroit already has one.
The Chargers.
A
young
quarterback.
You're in the division of the Chiefs, but
yeah.
I mean, you kind of tamp down expectations since no one expects you to beat the Chiefs.
No, though the Raiders have beaten them and should have beaten them twice.
Right out the gate.
Yes. Yeah. So that's the case. And by the way, is there anything quite like the moment on a trick play when it looks like a normal play and then there's something in your mind, you realize he's throwing?
Literally, that was exactly. We were in the sports office, and you see Allen make the lateral to Cole Beasley, and then Dan stands up and says, "He's gonna throw it."
I said he's gonna throw it. I was like, "He's gonna throw. He's gonna." Oh.
And there's nothing like the disappointment on that same play if he tucks it back down and runs it for 2 yards. You're like, because you want to see it happen.
Well, not only that, it's also because Josh will also think about throwing the ball on plays when it's not designed to be a throw. The play that he got almost bent over backwards, whether it's his knee or his ankle, that was a QB zone read. He keeps it. He knows he's going to go down and then goes and throws it while he's falling down to somebody who's not expecting the football, which was some classic Josh Allen experience.
Yes.
So 2018 even.
Yeah.
Little throwback. All right. The Bills with really quick. The game's going to be in Arizona this week against the 49ers. Sean McDermott said he doesn't care. Wherever they play, he just wants to make sure that they're able to play.
Yeah. And I think they, like I said, the idea that the game was determined pretty early, a week before, it's where it's going to be. They kind of knew it. They had that weird 2 days where everybody's out of the building, but they had a victory Monday and a day off anyhow. So, it's not that big a deal compared to what other teams are doing. But I don't think they handled the stretch of to Tennessee and then back home with Kansas City particularly well. So, and that was their worst loss, and then compounded that with the loss to the Chiefs when they just didn't look like themselves. I don't know if that had anything to do with the delay, but just in those moments. So they know this. They know that's where they're flying to. They know that's where the game is. They've been there before. So there should be nothing. There's no fans. So it should be nothing to impede them from playing the game they're going to play. I don't think it's any different if they were going to Santa Clara to play the game as opposed to going to Arizona. So he's right. They got to be ready for this. And teams are getting used to way more now. I mean, if the Ravens, at the time of this, the Ravens are still playing. If they play that game, they'll have gone like, how many days without a practice and delayed and playing on a Wednesday afternoon. So it's nothing quite like this. But yeah, I think that it's important that they're ready.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think it's huge actually that the 49ers are coming off a win too, because I think there could have been the ability to kind of look past this game and look to the Steelers game.
The Niners are a weird team. They've had so many injuries. They had one game this year where they had no starter playing that was a starter in the Super Bowl just, a couple months ago. So a different dynamic. Kyle Shanahan is this innovative, offensive-minded guru, but also has this toughness of like an old school 90s team with his ground game. So a tough challenge because
wait, what?
Yeah, he can run the ball. They're good at it. They can do it. They're good at it. They also have Nick Mullins as their quarterback. Okay. Yeah. I hope they run the ball. Otherwise, that's poor coaching. We have Josh Allen, a top 10 quarterback. You should probably throw it with him and not Devin Singletary, who's averaging 3 yards a carry. I was so good all podcast, Mike. I was so calm and composed.
By the way, the Bills' run game averaged 7 yards a carry, I think, this past week.
One game.
The game.
All right, let's wrap. Be sure to check out Buffalo Plus for more Bills content, as well as on YouTube on Buffalo Plus.
Hey, and what? Monday night, 7:30 to 8 on Facebook and YouTube, 13 Wham Facebook page, the Buffalo Plus YouTube page, and in Rochester on 13 Wham ABC, our Let's Talk Football live show leading right into the game, and the game is on ABC. Yes. Coming up. So whether you're in Buffalo, wherever you're watching, it's nationally on ABC Monday night. So we're on 7:30 to 8, goes right into the game.
Absolutely. Awesome. And we'll have all of our content up on buffaloplus.com and the YouTube page as well. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We always love hearing from everyone. For Mike Catalana and Dan Fetes, I am Jenna Cottrell. We'll catch you next time.